Hi, listeners. We want to tell you about a podcast we're really digging. It's called Christopher Kimball's Milk Street Radio. Every week, they travel the world to find the most fascinating stories about food, including children who harvest cod tongues after school in Norway and a detective who tracks down food thieves. And on Milk Street Radio, you can always find the unexpected. The comedian who ranks apples using an elaborate 100-point system, the secret history of grocery stores, and how to eat your way through Italy. They also interview the most beloved names in food like Jacques Pepin, Sola El-Waylly, Jose Andres, Jet Tila, Ina Garten, Nigella Lawson, and Padma Lakshmi. Plus, co-hosts Christopher Kimball and Sarah Moulton do live calls with listeners and answer their questions about ingredients, techniques, and culinary mysteries. Like, why roasting a leg of lamb made one caller's oven explode? Ever wonder why your bread won't rise or your souffle falls flat? Chris and Sarah have the answers. You'll also hear from a rotating cast of contributors, including Kenji Lopez-Alt, Cheryl Day, Dan Pashman from The Sporkful, and Alex Ainuz, a French guy cooking from YouTube. Take a listen at 177milkstreet.com/radio or just search your podcast app for Milk Street Radio. You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org. Hey there, and welcome to the Feed podcast. I'm Alexis Santos. The Feed is the world's largest crowdsourced food publication and social media community, serving as your daily source for what to cook, bake, eat, and drink. Here on the podcast, we are speaking with members of the #FeedFeed community to hear their stories, learn about their culinary inspirations, and get some of their best cooking tips. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Caitlin Prettyman. Caitlin is the creator and recipe developer behind Kalefornia Cravings. Kalefornia Cravings is an extremely popular, healthy-ish food blog focusing on simple meals that are better for you. Caitlin is also now a brand new cookbook author. Her book, Fast and Fresh Cal-Mex Cooking, is a collection of 60 recipes featuring West Coast-inspired dinners made in 30 minutes or less. I'm so excited to be chatting with you, Caitlin. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay, and congrats on the book. I know it's so much work and so exciting. You must be buzzing. What has it been like for you kind of having all this going on right now?
Oh my gosh, it's been amazing. It feels so surreal right now, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because I just got my copy yesterday. So actually having the hard copy book with me, it's like, I actually did this. This is amazing.
Oh my gosh. Were you
yeah.
What did it feel like to hold it in person?
It was it took me a couple minutes to be like, this is actually my book. And going through it and be like, I remember taking that picture and testing that recipe and tweaking that recipe and everything. So just to see it all come to life has just been a dream come true, honestly.
Well, I love to hear that. And congratulations again. Tell me, okay, I want to go back to the very beginning. How long have you been doing Kalefornia Cravings? That's my first question.
Oh man, I started this. It started more as a hobby, probably about 5 years ago, I would say. I was still working full time, and it was just something I was doing on the side. And then I kind of realized that I really loved food photography and recipe development, and wasn't really happy with the job that I was at that time, and just kind of decided to go for it and just see what would happen if I put all my time and effort into Kalefornia Cravings. And now I've probably been doing it full time for probably almost 2 years now, I would say.
Awesome. That's so cool. And so let's take it back even earlier than that. That was my first question. But when did you, what were your first culinary memories? When did you start knowing and learning about yourself that you were in love with food? What's kind of the early childhood memories that you have about food?
I always remember just being a little girl and always helping my mom in the kitchen. She was a huge baker. Her big thing was brownies, so I would always be in charge of stirring the brownies. And of course, I got to lick the spoon afterwards, so I was always excited about it. But that I don't know, I feel like I've always been around food. And it just kind of snowballed, really, where I went to college and obviously I was on my own, so I needed to make my own food, and I was getting really into recipes and looking up recipes, and it just kind of like all came together like very, very casually, I guess.
Okay, perfect. Honestly, that's kind of the exact same story that I have. Like,
Yeah.
I've asked a lot of people that question, and everybody has a very, very different answer. And
Hmm.
obviously, a lot of people go to culinary school or like they become chefs and they know for a long time that they want to pursue that as a career. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like, us girlies who like, yeah, we've always loved food, but we were like doing something else because that was kind of like the path that seemed to be the most, like the most promising. But then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's like, wait, my real love is actually making food. It's not doing this like corporate stuff. So
Yeah.
I totally get it. And what was your job that you had that you were working full time?
I was a catering sales manager for a small restaurant in San Diego. So I knew like I wanted to do something around food at the time. I thought it was either catering or working with like wedding events or something like that. And like I liked it, but it just wasn't like filling that void kind of, So
So
yeah, I don't know. Once I started doing this, I was like, there's no going back.
yes, no, same. So would you consider yourself self-taught or did you do any culinary training or what was kind of your background there?
I haven't had any culinary training. I'm definitely more self-taught. I mean, I've taken like a couple like fun little cooking classes, but nothing like professional,
Yeah,
you
same.
know? Yeah. I mean, I'm all for a good cooking class,
Yes.
honestly.
Honestly, I
Um,
think that the industry has really changed as far as, especially when it comes to content creators and
mhm.
who's putting out recipes on the internet. I feel like I have the utmost respect for restaurant chefs and people
Oh,
who
yes.
have been professionally trained. But the way
Mhm.
that, as you know, like recipe content works online, it's kind of almost like the easier and the more approachable, the better. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to have that lens of like, I know for a fact this is not that hard because I don't have any training and I made this. Like,
Mhm.
kind of agree with that logic, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely feel like once people start putting in I don't know how to say this. Like once you start getting more chefy, if that makes sense. Like again, the utmost respect for chefs and culinary training. I think that is very important and I admire what they do. But I feel like on social media, um, just when they put it out there though, it can kind of be intimidating to most people, especially people who don't know how to cook or don't know like they want to cook, but they just don't know what to do once they hear like a chef is making it and preparing it, it just gets a little intimidating.
Yeah. There's like a lot of technique involved.
Yeah, yeah. And if you had just had like your average stay-at-home mom making all these amazing meals, like I could do that. That's easy.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. No, I get it. And so would you describe how would you describe your culinary perspective? Is it kind of like this easy, better for you? Or like, how do you kind of explain to people like, hey, this is the kind of food that I make?
I try to make my recipes as easy and as approachable as possible for people because I know when I look at a recipe, if there's like a million ingredients and a ton of steps and they all seem really complicated, I'm not going to make it or I'm going to be really intimidated to make it. So
Mm-hmm.
I just try to like really think about, okay, like the average person, what are they realistically going to do? They're not going to spend hours in the kitchen making something. So I'm trying to make, this recipe like pretty fast, pretty easy, very simple to follow, maybe not a ton of ingredients, but always making sure that it tastes good because if it doesn't taste good, then why make it?
Yeah, totally.
you know? So
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And is your family like also very involved and in love with food? Or are you kind of like not the dark sheep, but like the black sheep or are you kind of the only one? Or what's kind of the family vibe with food?
I would say my parents. I'm an only child, so it was always just me and my parents when I was growing up. They like food, but I don't think they had the love of food. I guess that I have now. I feel like they're definitely getting more towards it now.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband is another foodie. Like he and I just love going to new places, trying new things, trying new recipes at home. So I feel like since being with him, it's definitely like accentuated things like even more so than it used to. Um, and his family's always been like that. So I feel like it just all kind of works. together now.
Yeah, it sounds like you found your perfect match.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's great.
Yes. And I saw you have a baby, or I was just looking at your Instagram. You are a mom, or you are expecting? I'm sorry, I forgot the timeline.
Oh no, but I am expecting. I'm about 8 months pregnant right now.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, there's a lot going on right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you had your human baby and your book baby like kind of at the same time. It sounds like it's going to be at the same time.
I know. It's been a ride, let me tell you. And we just moved too, so we're finally settling into our new place. And now I have like the book and the baby's coming soon and getting everything ready for that. It's just been a little chaotic.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. I'm over here like barely able to keep my shit together with just like me and my cat. So
Oh my God, you don't even know. But
wow.
it's great.
Okay, well, a lot of exciting things. Life is lifing for you.
Oh, definitely lifing for sure.
Insanely exciting. So I know I'm sure you've put a million things to think about as it pertains to having kids, but we've thought a little bit about like the food you want to make for your baby, and like how do you kind of look into this as someone who works in food full time?
Oh yeah.
As far as like child rearing, like I know it's kind of changed a lot. There's a lot of like emphasis on, organic, or, some people are like, yeah, let kids be kids. Like, what are kind of your perspectives as far as know you're still expecting, so you haven't gotten there.
Yeah, no.
It's like someone who works in food full time, and how you hope to, if all goes well, feed your kid.
That's a great question. I've actually had quite a few people ask me that. I don't know. I feel like, because there's so many different, like you said, there's so many different ways you can go about it now. But I feel like just kind of doing what I do in my normal everyday life too, it's all about balance. Like I want to obviously feed them as healthily as possible. But like I do also think that like you should go to McDonald's every now and then, just buy them a Happy Meal. Like that's just part of the whole childhood experience.
Exactly.
So just trying to find that balance, I think will be really interesting to see like how that all plays out. But I am a huge advocate for making things from scratch, so I know that they will obviously have a lot of home cooked meals.
Yeah, you'll be in your Nara Smith era, making like
yes,
elaborate things from scratch for your baby.
I've actually had a lot of people ask me if I'll start posting like some baby food recipes or things like that. And I was like, I didn't even think about that, but that's a good idea.
It is a good idea. Yeah, no, I have heard of people that make like homemade baby food for their kids. And I assume like, everybody, especially when you work in food for a living, goes into it with the mentality of like, yeah, I want to make as many like fresh homemade things as I can. But again, you're raising a baby. So there's probably a lot of things that fall by the wayside versus what you're planning on. But yeah, it's interesting because, I'm nowhere near that kind of phase in my life yet. But I always kind of think about that myself. I'm like, I wonder like what my culinary perspective would be on like raising kids. Like, what do you do? Like when you kind of have the access and the skill set to like go kind of full out, but also at the same time, like that might just be too much to ask. I don't know.
Yeah, because a lot of people I feel like kind of expect me to just go, oh, well, of course I'm going to make my own baby food and I'm going to do all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, I might do like some, but at the same time, like convenience is not a bad thing either, so it just really depends on, I think, just how easy things might be. But I know I've looked up a couple of things, and I have some friends that have already had children, and they are making their own baby food, and they say it's really not that hard. So I was like, maybe I will do more. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, stay tuned. New baby food reels dropping on Kalefornia things coming to a store near you. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a market for it. And I think that, obviously when you're a content creator, there's a sort of a boundary that you have to set as far as what you share from your personal life. But then at the same time, you're kind of told like the more you share, the better. And so it'll be interesting to see for you, like how your content changes as you enter this new phase of your life, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of not so glamorous moments happening at home, but then it's like, oh, do people want to know about that? I don't know. I always find it very interesting and very fascinating as people who are content creators do this, and like what you share and how you share it and what people want to know and how like realistic and relatable to be. It's just like, it's always kind of just like, I don't know, just mind boggling, to be honest. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh, definitely. You hit on so many things, to be honest with you. I definitely feel like there's a very fine line being a content creator with like oversharing, not sharing enough, sharing too much. Like there's so much that goes into it, and there's so much comparison too when you see someone who's doing like so well and they're putting everything out there and showing all the things, and then you're just like, well, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, or maybe you do show some stuff and you get some negativity back from it. That's always a really big thing in my mind. Anytime I go to post something, like is this going to get some kind of backlash or not? Because like, unfortunately, that's just the world that we live in right now with social media. But I don't know. I always just try to think of like, what would I want to see? And right now, like I am expecting, I don't know a whole lot of what's going on or anything. You know, this is our first child. So I feel like I want to see people in that situation just knowing like what they're doing. So I'm not gonna like overload people with it, but just kind of showing them like, hey, this is my life, this is what's going on right now. Honestly, this week I haven't really been on social media that much because I've been having like so many other things going on. And usually if that happens, then I'll just be honest and I'll just come on and be like, hey, I had this going on and that going on, but I'm still here and thanks for being here. And I just find like people just appreciate that realness, you know, instead of just trying to be fake all the time. Like everything's perfect, you know?
Exactly. And I think it's kind of changed a lot, like the landscape of social media as far as like, you know, when you first started even 5 years ago, I feel like it was a very different landscape of, you know, wanting this like super filtered, perfect, like aesthetic. I know you've seen a lot of changes with even food photography, not even just like lifestyle, but you know, how people want to consume just content in general. And I feel like it kind of went from this very picturesque, perfect type, you know, oh, we have this life that you can't have, to wait, no. These are real people doing real things, living real lives, like kind of like lifting that veil and creating more relatable and authentic content is now kind of the more popular thing to do. And then you're like, it's this weird in between of like, okay, well, like I feel like I look hideous today. Like, I don't know. I don't even want to leave my house. Like, I don't want to, you know, it's so
true.
Evolved. And now it's like, okay, well now if you do something nice or you do, I mean, you're a skilled food photographer, you can set up a gorgeous setting, I'm sure. But then it's like, well, I don't want it to be too nice because I don't want it to look unapproachable. You know?
Exactly. That's the things that go through your head that a lot of people don't realize now. You know, it's like, I want to post this, but like, is it too perfect or is it not perfect enough? Is it like not messy enough or approachable? Like, there's just so many things that go into this little like a 30-second clip that people are watching and they have no idea.
Exactly. And then, it's truly fascinating to watch it all change. Cause I mean, when I started working at the feed, it was in 2020. So that was really like when TikTok first started becoming a thing, especially like with food. So I think that and like the emphasis on short form video is so much of what changed the entire landscape now, where it's like, okay, posting a picture is almost like not even relevant anymore. And super stylized stuff isn't super relevant anymore. And, you know, it's just like, it's changed so drastically and so rapidly that it's almost like you kind of get whiplash if you think about it too much. And like,
oh, it's so true.
It's crazy. So what was your experience? I know, because you said you started about 5 years ago and that you did really love food photography, recipe development. So you're kind of that, I guess, OG era of food content. What has your experience been kind of evolving with the industry to where it is now?
Oh, I remember when TikTok became really big and then when Instagram said they were switching over to only really like promoting reels. And I was furious when that happened.
All the food photographers were so pissed.
Oh, I was so mad because I just spent all this time trying to perfect my photography and get it looking perfect. And now it's like not even relevant anymore. And I just remember doing the first couple of reels that I did. They were terrible. They were awful.
Yeah, same.
But Like I tried and I was like, this is taking so long, like versus just a photo shoot that'll take me maybe 30 minutes. This was taking me hours to
Yes.
do. And I was like, I was just so mad. But at the same time, it was like, well, if this is how this is going to be, like, I just need to adapt to it. And I was trying to think more positively. So I think, I don't remember when it was, but it was the start of a new year. It might have been like 2021 or 2022. I think it was 2022. I just told myself, like, I don't care how bad these reels are, but I'm just going to post only reels from now on, not do any like static posts of photography, just only do reels, and we'll just see how it goes. And it just slowly started getting better, and I started picking up more traffic, and people started asking me for like photography style tips because I would share little tips in my stories all the time for that. And it just kind of got to be more fun. Once I like changed my perspective on it and like hating it so much and just tried to view it as an opportunity to learn, like just to learn something new, then it became a lot better. And now like, I know it takes a lot longer, but I love doing reels. I think they're so much fun now.
Yeah. Okay, good. Such a like, honestly, like a positive case study. And because like you see a lot of people who like, again, kind of had that like very resistant reaction, but then kind of stuck to it, you know, like kind of stayed with the stubbornness and stayed with the like, okay, well, this is what I've done. This is my expertise. I'm not comfortable with short form video. I'm not comfortable with showing myself, whatever it may be. They never really like evolved, and you stop growing, and it's frustrating for sure. Cause you know, I'm a full-time content creator too. So it's definitely frustrating when things that are out of control like that change, but then really the only way to go about it is with an open mind and with kind of a willingness to adapt with the industry. Cause I mean, every industry changes. I mean, think about like all of technology, like all of like travel, like every industry changes like that. So I don't know. It's been very fascinating and eye-opening to watch it change so much and like watch the people who did adapt to it well and how they succeeded versus those who have been more resistant. Like, again, no judgment, but just kind of like, okay, something's got to give at some point, and it'll probably change again. I think I run into the predicament a lot where people ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, you tell me. I don't know. Everything's so much. Like, I have no idea.
It's so true. I hate that question because like I have no idea. Things change all the time so quickly in all social media. So I have no idea.
Yeah. I'm like, I know I want to do something with food somewhere, but I don't know where that will be. And what the medium will be. Maybe it'll be like with the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. Maybe that's how we'll consume all of our content.
You don't know. Like social media is just so like rapidly changing all the time. It's like hard to tell.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know if you run into this too, where like you meet people or try to explain your job or like explain what you do, and it like makes no sense. Like even like my parents, like they've just now started to understand like how
yeah, thankfully my mom is the sweetest person in the entire world. I love her. She's been with me like through everything, has been like my biggest supporter since I first started this. So I feel like she's really into social media now, but I know other people I talk to, I just get like that deer in the headlight look when I tell them like, yeah, I'm a content creator or I'm a food photographer. I usually say food photographer because I feel like that's a little more like palpable for people to understand. Okay. Where content creator, people are still kind of like, I have no idea what you do.
I know. And then also saying like, oh, I'm an influencer is also like sort of like that doesn't really have a good I know. Because I'm like, you know, I'm single, so I'm on dating apps or whatever. So when I meet people, like, I'm like, I feel like it's probably best that I don't say that. Like, I don't really know how to. Yeah, it's the same thing where you're just like, yeah, I usually say I do recipe videos online.
Oh, see, that's smart. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Because it's very confusing. And I feel like what we're talking about right now, I feel like you and I have so much in common, but to anybody listening, I'm sure this sounds just like first world problems. And
oh, God.
But it is a very fascinating, just industry. And I mean, even if you're a lifestyle content creator or a travel content creator or a sport, whatever, it's all that is still with brands, like big major brands, is such a huge part of how the world is working now. Like the entire marketing economy is kind of centered around influencer and content creator marketing at this point. So it's kind of like, yes, it sounds like silly and whatever, and like, oh yeah, influencers, blah, but like that's how like every major corporation is spending their ad dollars these days. So it's like it's so much more important than people, I think, that don't know about it realize. So yeah, it's just kind of fascinating to talk to someone who's like been in the industry kind of like as long as I have and seen it change and all that. So yeah, we're probably in the weeds on like very, like content creator problems, but it's cool to
I know,
especially how yours has, like, your success and everything has translated to you writing a book. And so, you know, that's a tangible thing that, of course,
I've found that that's helped a lot when I talk to people and like tell them what I do. As soon as I say like, oh, I have a cookbook now, or I'm writing a cookbook, then they're like, oh, okay, like this is kind of serious, instead of like, that's not a real job kind of attitude, you know?
So why did you, just out of curiosity, were you like kind of always wanting a cookbook, or like how did that, like, that's been a goal of yours for a long time? I know it's kind of like it's kind of a rite of passage in a way, but also like a very important thing. And I know it takes a ton of work. And, you know, how do you decide to devote time to that versus, you know, what you were just doing before? So what was kind of that process like for you on deciding that this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I've always wanted to write a cookbook. That has been on my bucket list since I started this whole thing. I had no idea when that was going to be, but I knew I just wanted to do it at some point. And I was approached by a couple of other companies earlier, but they were very like specific on what they wanted. And I was just kind of fitting their mold, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew like if I wrote a cookbook, I knew that I wanted to have more control. I knew what kind of cookbook, what style I wanted to do. So I was really just kind of waiting to see like what would happen, I guess. Like if a company like reached out to me, because I didn't think I was anywhere close to reaching out to a company at that point. And then I found, or I had the publisher that I was working with reach out to me, and, you know, I was just talking to them, got a really good feeling from them. They kind of gave me like the timeline of everything. It seemed to work with our timeline, because at that point we knew we were going to want to try to start a family soon, but we didn't know when. And I knew that, you know, a cookbook obviously is going to take a ton of time and effort into it. So there was no way that those two things were going to be going on at the same time, really. But it all just kind of worked together. And it was just, you know, I had a lot of support from my husband, from my family, saying, you know, like, we'll take care of things, like just put all of your effort and energy into this. And I don't know, it just seemed like this is it. This is the time. This is supposed to happen right now. So I went for it and I did it.
Yay! Yeah. So how long did it take you? What was like the lift like?
Oh, it was, let's see. I think it was a little bit more of an expedited process than I probably would have liked or I wanted. And if I do it again, probably do it a little differently. But I think it was, what was it? It was from March to October of last year, or November of last year. So it sounds like a long time.
No, that's
but quick. It's really not.
No, that's very cool.
Yeah. So like when I first like read, you know, like, oh, well, you know, the full manuscript will be due at this time. And I was like, oh, piece of cake. Like I can come up with 60 recipes. That's easy. Like halfway through, I was like, oh, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
Oh my gosh. And so what do you hope that, like, now that, you know, your book's going to be out, what is in your mind, kind of what you hope that people can accomplish by purchasing and using your cookbook versus what they can find from you online? Because that's kind of been my biggest, not like barrier, but just kind of curiosity is, you know, you see a lot of content creators putting out cookbooks, and I know it's so important and so special and so gorgeous to do, but for like, how would you explain to like the, the people of the world, like, oh, this is what you can access from my cookbook that you can't find just from like Googling me and looking on my website or my Instagram,
Yeah. Well, most of the recipes in the cookbook, I think there's only 3 in the cookbook that are actually on my website. The rest are completely brand new. So that's a big thing. But I also just feel like a lot of people like having something tangible to look at,
Yes.
or at least for like recipe wise, because I even find myself sometimes, when I'm trying to remember a recipe that I made and I'm trying to make it for dinner, I don't really want to go online or look it up on my phone. I'd much rather just pull out a cookbook that has like the page marked already or something. So I think there's definitely something to be said about having a hardcover cookbook that you can just look through and mark and even make notes on it. I know my mom does that all the time with her cookbooks. So,
yeah, totally. I'm like the type of person where like even just like reading just like novels, fiction, whatever, I love like a physical, tangible book. Like I don't do an audiobook or a Kindle or anything like that. Like it's so nice to have that physical, tangible paper, which is so like old school of us to say. But
no. But it's so true though. I feel like a lot of people are like that. I've had so many people tell me that they would really like a cookbook of just my recipes on my website, even just so they have like a place to go instead of online, so it's definitely a real thing for sure.
Totally. And how did you come up with like the theme for your book, the fresh Cal-Mex cooking happening in 30 minutes or less? Like how was that like the thing that you landed on that you wanted to emphasize in your book?
I knew I always wanted to do some sort of cookbook using Mexican flavors because I'm born and raised San Diegan, love the food here. We've been to Mexico several times, and it's just, we have such good Mexican food here, and I feel like it's hard to not tap into that. And then also just like the local food that we have is just, it's really fresh and it's bright, and I just knew that I wanted to somehow fuse the two together because you hear Tex-Mex all the time.
Yes.
And I feel like sometimes that can get a little, I don't want to say negative, but like there's just like a stigma that comes with it sometimes where there's a new phase coming through, I guess, with Cal-Mex where it's more fresh, but it's still using like, the traditional Mexican flavors or using more locally grown California ingredients. So I just knew I wanted to like do some sort of fusion between the two because that's what a lot of my recipes on my website even are. And I've gotten such great feedback from that. And then just going along with how I like making easy and approachable recipes, having meals made in 30 minutes or less just kind of seemed like a no-brainer at that point. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I actually I just visited San Diego for the first time this year. And I had never been. I've been to LA a bunch and, just made it down there. And you're so right. Just about like the fresh, really no other way to put it than just like the fresh chicken food, just like super like delicious, not like heavy feeling, like very authentic, like lovely, like such a beautiful food scene there because of its, proximity to the Mexican border. But then it kind of has those California influences, and it is a very interesting and unique food scene that I do think is very different than what you think of when you hear Tex-Mex. I think it's completely different. And that's kind of, I think, a cool niche for you to lean into because hearing you talk about it makes a lot of sense. Like, of course, like there's got to be so many dishes that you could come up with in that like sphere. So what was kind of like the R&D process for you? Were you kind of like going out to your local restaurants and like trying a lot of things, or were you kind of looking back on like childhood memories, or like what was your R&D process?
It was kind of a mix of both because there definitely are a lot of newer restaurants popping up now that are considered like Mexican fusion or like upscale Mexican restaurants. And I know we've gone to a couple of those and I was like, wow, this dish is really great. Like, how can I do something like this at home? Or thinking about, when I was like a child growing up, we had a couple of family friends that would make like really authentic Mexican foods. Like, how can I make that, but like using maybe like slightly different ingredients that most other people might be able to find? It was just a lot of like, just figuring out like, how can I get the flavors that I'm wanting, but using like other, I don't know, other ingredients or other things that most other people might have access to, because there might be like a lot of things here that we have that other people maybe on the East Coast might not, or something, you know. So just trying to keep that in mind all the time when I was doing that, but just mainly sticking with the flavors that I love, because I love Mexican food in general. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I love that. That sounds like a really fun time too. I bet your husband liked that.
Oh yeah, he did not go hungry for a while. Let's just put it that way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He was like, oh, you have to do all this like research, trying and making food. Oh man.
Right. Oh, such a bummer. Same with my parents too, because they helped a lot. We always go over there every Friday for like a little family dinner. So I was always like, can I just bring this over and we can like grill it up and just see if we all like it or not? Like they loved it.
Okay, perfect. And they live close to you still? Like they're still in San Diego?
Yes. Yeah. They were also born and raised here. So we've been here a while.
Yeah, my gosh. I don't think I've really spoken to anybody who's like had such strong roots in San Diego.
Oh, really? Well, here I am.
Here you are. I know. I feel like the people I know who live there just like moved there or whatever. Like they're not generations of San Diegans. I love that.
I know. It's so hard. Like people have asked you like, oh, are you going to leave anytime soon? Like I don't even know where I would go, honestly. I love it here. We're so spoiled. So
yeah, it's pretty gorgeous and like lovely there. It's just like a delightful place.
Oh, it is. It is. It's gorgeous.
You like, raise a family and you have the the built-in babysitters with your parents.
I know, right? Yeah. Like why would we leave?
Yeah, you are good to go. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so fun. Is there anything else important to add about your culinary journey or your cookbook or your culinary inspirations or anything like that I didn't ask you?
Honestly, I feel like we covered quite a bit, so I don't think so. But yeah, this was just so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like jazzed about food, and now I'm like really craving Cal Mexi cooking, but I'm nowhere near. I'm on the East Coast. I'll have to just go back or make some food from your cookbook.
Right.
This has been so fun. Oh, and tell people where they can find your cookbook.
They can find it right now. It's on pre-order on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble. I'm pretty sure Target will have it. Pretty much anywhere books are sold, basically. But those are like the main, probably Barnes & Noble and Amazon are the big ones.
Okay, amazing. Perfect. And then congratulations again. I know it's such a labor of love and very exciting. And good luck with your other baby coming into the world. a big busy time for you, but I'm sure you're going to handle it with grace and it's going to be excellent. So very happy to kind of watch you go on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for being here, Caitlin.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. To learn more about the food and drink discovery platform that is the Feed Feed, head to thefeedfeed.com. If you have a food story to tell or want us to interview a blogger, cookbook author, chef, or restaurateur, we would love your suggestions. Just send us a DM on Instagram. See you next time.
The Feed Feed podcast is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
Craft cocktails, from the classics to zero-proof drinks, are all around us. But what if we told you that craft cocktails are actually a relatively recent addition to the culinary scene? My name is Toni Tipton-Martin, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Cook's Country at America's Test Kitchen. I want to introduce you to a podcast mini-series I'm hosting called 100 Proof, The Journey of the American Cocktail. Over 6 episodes, we'll look at how mixed drinks offer us a window into what was happening in America during the dawn of the cocktail. We'll then take you to the present day to contemplate what forces led to our modern cocktail renaissance. And along the way, we'll of course be sharing cocktail recipes with you. Subscribe to Proof from America's Test Kitchen so you won't miss the first episode. It drops on Thursday, May 23rd. Again, that's Proof, Proof, from America's Test Kitchen. Cheers.